Good evening. I would like to welcome everybody to the April Planning Board meeting. At this time, we'll have a roll call.
Reed Pell, Chairman. Wayne Joyce, Acting Chairman.
Here.
John Cable.
Here.
Keith Slusher.
Here.
Kemp Davis.
Here.
Melinda Vaughn.
Here.
Ralph Modlin.
Here.
Reggie Beeson.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll have a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Been approved.
Mr. Chairman, before we get started, was there anyone here who was supposed to present the NC Mine 1 request? Okay. We were notified about an hour and a half ago that they have decided to withdraw. We got that in an email. It was last minute. We had no way to contact anybody beforehand. I'm sorry for anybody's inconvenience, but that one is no longer on the agenda. They have decided not to proceed with the project. So if anybody was here for that, feel free to go home. Yes, sir.
Okay, at this time, we have one item of old business that we will hear.
Mr. Chairman, the board may remember that we decided to table the request of Norma C. Pierce at the last meeting. They're asking for a conditional use zoning, a conventional lot overlay exclusive for 27 lot site built subdivision with minimum housing size of 1,300 square feet as per the site plan. Once again, I'm sure the board's very familiar with the site. Here's the yellow map showing the location. This is the original site plan that was looked at, showing that there are a number of lots that access the existing roads. They have changed it. If you'll look at the cul-de-sac coming in, you'll see that 4 of the lots have been turned to face into the road on the cul-de-sac and will no longer be coming out on the main road. Let's see. Finally, here's an aerial photograph of the site, and we have some pictures of the surrounding area. The hearing was tabled last time because of some communication we'd received from the DOT that they had expressed that they would be in a position basically to stop this project even if the board decided to pass it. After a number of conversations with different people over at the DOT, it was finally determined that this was not the case. They do not look at subdivisions like commercial development as they had originally expressed, that was a misunderstanding. That they do have the authority if there's some sort of issue with the cul-de-sac road coming in, they can ask that it be moved one way or another to deal with their concerns there. This is nothing new. That's the way it's been for years. I mean, it's not unusual that we have a plat come in and, the final project looks a little different because the road had to be moved one way or the other because the DOT had found some issues with it. That said, they did still strongly recommend that this project not go through. They think it is too many driveways. They're adamant that it would create, potential traffic hazards. In reflection of that, the board has probably noticed that the recommendation of the planning board moved from recommending approval to sort of a split decision. There is nothing technically wrong with the subdivision. It still meets the standards laid out in the Randolph County Unified Development Ordinance as far as lot sizes, et cetera. But the change was a reflection of our conversations with the DOT and their concerns. That said, that is an overview of the request, and I'll turn it over to you now, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to ask if anyone speaking tonight, when you come up to the podium, please give your name and address, and when you're finished, if you'll sign in over here to my left, that would be wonderful. Thank you. At this time, do we have someone to speak on behalf of the Pierce request?
I'm Janice Speenauer, and I live at 4561 Pierce Lane in Trinity. And I represent the sellers. I work at Price Realtors, and I represent them as their realtor and also as their family. This was the estate of my aunt and uncle. And so when people come to us with a request to sell property, we try really hard to think what is the best use for the property, and also, how can we get the best price for our seller? And so that's what I looked at, and we determined that a neighborhood would be a good idea for that property because it has the 3 sides of road frontage, and it also has the water line available. And so that's how we priced it, and we had it on the market for a couple years. We started marketing it a couple years ago. And I know there's a lot of concern in the community, and you've given your concerns, and we've looked at those, and we want to address those tonight. So I want to talk about for a minute, that they wanted to sell the whole property at the same time. We did have a few offers and interest from people who wanted partial segments of the tract, but they didn't want to divide it. But then after 2 years, they were willing to divide it. A lot of you have expressed concerns about the size of the homes. In the proposed restrictions, it says that this minimum size would be 1,300 square feet, and the maximum size would be 2.5 stories. So it's not limited to the minimum size, but that seemed to be a concern for a lot of the neighbors. And also the lots are approximately 1 acre. And I know the community thinks that's really, really small because a lot of people have large tracts of land. But for people moving out of condominiums or, even in the city, some of the lots are just very, very small, fifth acre or even less than that. So it's large to some people. And so, we would just want to think about the people that might move into this neighborhood. They probably don't want the responsibility of large tracts of land, but they'd love to have an acre in the country where they can, have a backyard and have a garden and have cookouts and, let their kids ride bikes and things like that. So it's new houses. It's not something old or bad. It's new houses with wonderful people that might be neighbors to the community. I did speak with Beverly Fowler at the Randolph County Board of Education, and she said there's plenty of room for students in the local schools. And she said, that they would welcome them if there are children in the neighborhood. Also, I know there was a concern about the forestry program, and a couple people thought it was a contract, but it isn't a contract. It's just a plan with the county, to grow trees, and that is allowed to be sold. So that is not an issue for the sellers. I know, I understand the thought about cutting down trees. I hate that too. But, we all probably live in homes that at once had trees there. And so we need these homes. And these are people that would be neighbors. They would be people that would work, people that have jobs, or people that have money to buy a new home. And it would be people with children that could go to our schools and work in our workforce and go to our churches and contribute to our community. And so I think the only thing that I think is really better than a living tree is living people. So I think a neighborhood would be a great idea.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else to speak on behalf of this request?
Mr. Chairman, board members, thanks for this opportunity to go over a few points tonight. I'm going to take this off if that's okay. Thank you very much. We were here last month, and I had my remarks together. And what's really interesting, not much has changed. One thing I think you'll find interesting: Randolph County is a wonderful place to live. I don't think we'll get any disagreement from anyone in this room about that. And because of that, people are looking from neighboring counties, and they want to move to Randolph County. And what that does is it gives us a labor force. Without a labor force, guys, we work real hard for economic development. Without a labor force, there is no economic development. That's one of the first things that my clients, and you guys all know I generally do commercial, that's the first question I'm asked. What kind of labor force do you have? And to give you a little bit of an idea, and I've read through the packet, and a lot of comments, a lot of concerns, I get it. But just to put people, one of the comments was there's plenty of properties for sale. Monday morning, I had my assistant to pull a 5-mile radius. We can do that in the MLS. A 5-mile radius around this property. It's 5 miles in each direction. There were 4 single-family homes for sale. 2 were fixer-uppers. People are buying them and flipping them. 2 were fixer-uppers. 1 was a mobile home. And the other one was one that was, I think it was over $400,000, which is not our general mean price. So there were also 6 for sale. It's not a 5-mile radius, but there were 6 properties, residential properties, for sale with a Trinity address. So I want you to think about that a little bit on supply and demand. If we don't have it, they can't come. And this price point, I know there were some comments in the paperwork I read about Hearthwood, which is down the road. It's a great project, some beautiful homes in there. And Mr. Dobbins and Mr. Ridge have been trying to finish that project for over a decade. And there's a reason. It's just those price points are not the price points that people generally are looking for. It's just the way it is. Back to the request, it met the Unified Development Ordinance. That's the ordinance, the playbook, guys. That's the book we go by. It also met the Growth Management Plan. That's the second part of the playbook that we go by. The Technical Review Committee initially gave it a unanimous decision. I understand about traffic. I rode the corridor extensively. There are a lot of driveways. There's a lot of driveways before you get to this property, and there's a lot of driveways after you pass it. And the speed goes from 55, 35, 45, up through Hillsville. You got Diamonds Keep, you got Liberty Run. You've got a lot of subdivisions, because one thing that happens in this county, we don't have a lot of public water. We just don't. Davis and Water decided in their plan to put out tentacles of growth with water into areas they thought would be prominent growth areas. Guys, they aren't here by accident. They didn't send water to these areas thinking that there wouldn't be any development. That's exactly why they're here. Be a bad business plan if they didn't think that. Ms. Spainhour spoken, Beverly Fowler at the Randolph County School System spoke, said not only did they have room at Randleman Middle School, and New Market, but they definitely had the capacity and would welcome new students. That too was one of the arguments that I saw in the package that you guys have in front of you. There's also questions about permits. DOT, in my mind, is a permit on the subdivision road. That's a permit, I get it. But there's also permits with the Department of Water Quality. Anytime you guys know, but for the audience, anytime 1 acre of land is disturbed, then the Department of Water Quality, now formerly known as DENR, has to come in. You have to have erosion control plans. You have to follow their rules. And if you don't, there's some serious fines that are involved. They can show up with no notice and pull out their violation book, and there's extensive fines if you don't follow the rules and regulations. So that will be taken care of. Sanitary systems, that seemed to be a concern in what I read. I have a lot of confidence in the Department of Health Department of Randolph County. They have a really good group of guys. If these lots don't support a sanitary system, they won't be approved. Speaking of which, when you have 27 lots in Randolph County, it would be a miracle very similar to the parting of the Red Sea if all 27 actually perk. So it won't be 27. It might be 25. It might be 24. That's you don't know that, and people ask, well, why don't you know? No developer is going to spend all the money that's required with soil scientists and so forth in front of knowing if a project's even going to be approved. There's already money spent with drawings, engineering plans, general plans that are done. I don't think I can elaborate any better than Janice did just a moment ago, Ms. Spainhour. All of us live in a home that used to be a forest. All of us. And we decided we wanted to live there. I don't think it's any of us is right to tell other people they can't do the same. I'm open for questions. Now, this is a new one. No question. Come on, Kim. No questions. Thank you for your time. Keith, you have one?
Waiting to hear what the folks have to ask.
Of course. I would like to leave some time open to address any specific concerns at the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I did not. I'm H.R. Gallimore, Remax Central Realty. Thank you.
Thank
Here
you.
in Asheboro.
Anyone else like to speak?
On the DOT issue, and DOT did not know this, all these lots will have turnarounds on the lot. You know, all of us have been in neighborhoods in the city, we have this all the time. You have to back into out into the street. Every one of these lots will have turnarounds. So just keep that in mind. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else to speak on behalf of this request?
Angela Brown, Price Realtors, 118 Trindle Road, Archdale. So I kind of want to speak in behalf of the neighborhood, kind of reiterating what Mr. Gallimore and Ms. Spainhour has kind of already said. But Randolph County, of course, is a wonderful community to live in. We have wonderful buyers that contact us on a daily basis wanting to come out to the county. I also did a search similar to what Mr. Gallimore did. And before I left, there is in the Trinity, and I only pulled the Trinity and Sophia area, but there's 11 active homes that are currently on the market. That a lot of those were kind of like you said, fixer-uppers, kind of a different type homes. Right now, over the last year, we've had 295 homes that have sold in those two areas. Of those right now, we have about 33 that are under contract, and typically when they come on the market, they're just staying on average 3 to 5 days at max. With that being said, I think it speaks volume to the area, to the community, and why so many people do want to come out here. People do enjoy the peacefulness of the area. They also like kind of being more out in the county area with some trees and yards and stuff like that. So we support the neighborhood, the community. We're excited of the potential buyers that will come neighbors to everybody that lives around, and the community that they will develop together. Do y'all have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on behalf of this request? Is there anyone who'd like to speak in opposition of this request?
State name first. It's okay with everybody, I'm gonna take the mask off. So, my name is Brandon Hedrick. I live at 2829 Sawyer Road, Sophia, North Carolina. And I have some additional evidence I would like to submit. I do have copies for each person.
Okay.
All right. So while those are being passed out, I want to say, I actually reached out to some of the representatives for the development and spoke to Mr. HR. He was great talking with him on the phone, and, kind of shared some of the concerns I had and concerns I had from talking with other family and community members. I am a little bit disappointed that there wasn't more changed in the revised plat regarding some of our concerns. And I still have a few questions regarding kind of confirmation to the Uniform Development Ordinance. Our biggest concerns, and let me start by saying this. I'm a CPA. I do a lot in construction and real estate, and I understand completely the urban exodus that's happened right now. And that's not unique to Randolph County. It's not unique to North Carolina. There's a big demand for subdivisions. There's a big demand for housing. And so I get that. I mean, I think one of the stats from last month that I saw from industry said 63% of residential homes are in a bidding war right now before they're closed, right? So that those stats aren't unique to this area. And there's multiple things causing that. I think now more so than ever is the need to stick to what's in the Unified Development Ordinance and what's in the county growth strategy or growth plan. And I think the importance in that is, you don't get do-overs regarding this. I mean, the county, if the real goal is to improve the quality of life for Randolph County citizens, I mean, I have a 1-year-old, and so I wonder about the impacts for him in possibly the year 2100, right? So I think our primary concerns are public safety, and in terms of public safety, 2 items, one of which is the traffic recommendation by the NCDOT. I've continued to keep in contact with the district manager. They have not changed their stance on the recommendation of having one main access road and all of the lots accessing that road internally. That is their recommendation as traffic engineers. So expert opinion. And then the other concern we have is the wastewater plan. So as you guys can see in your packet, the second page, per the subdivision ordinance rules in the unified residential, or in the unified development ordinance, I mean, the public water and sewer facilities not available in individual water supplies, sewage disposal systems are planned. The subdivider, at his own expense, shall have the site investigated by the Randolph County Health Department or other authorized qualified individual firm or agency, determine whether or not such individual facilities are feasible, and shall present proof to the planning board, not the technical review committee, but the planning board, that appropriate soil tests have been conducted, and that each lot in the subdivision not served by public water or sewage disposal systems has been approved by Randolph County Health Department for individual water supplies and sewage disposal systems. So, and basically it goes on further in the next part, where individual septic tank systems are planned, minimal lot size specified in this ordinance may need to be increased as required by the results of percolation test and subsoil investigation. And I understand, I've done this. So I have 10 acres. We subdivided it into 5 acres, which didn't require a zoning request. I dug 48 holes with a soil scientist, and we put a permanent septic easement on it. And so I certainly know the burden. And as you're talking about a project of this size, I'm sure that these homes won't sell for less than $200,000 each. So you're talking about a $5.4 million project as it's currently proposed. And so I would easily make the argument that, that expense, per the Unified Development Ordinance should be bared now to show that these sites are indeed, safe and that, they're feasible. So I think that's one of the questions I have, and I don't know if that, has been provided to you guys. I'll let you guys discuss that. Further on this list, I kind of want to go down. So that kind of clears up any safety concerns we may have. And note that some of these lots, especially looking at state, like general statute state setbacks that are going to be there, especially given the stream impacts and everything, having a primary and a repair field on that is probably going to be very difficult for a 3-bedroom septic system, I would imagine. But nonetheless, there are definitely soil scientists that will figure that out. The other concern outside of safety that I have, and this is really my, one of my other big impacts, is the cultural and heritage impacts of Flint Hill Church. As you can see in the packet I provided, the deed on that property is dated 1880. We have recognized through this process kind of the impacts that this could have to them. And talking with the pastor there, his concerns is that they get their one of the ways they're able to pay the light and power bill, or the light bill and water bill right now, is that they have a few events. People see the Little White Church and they want to come out and have a wedding or whatever at the Little White Church. And I realize that that's not like a reason to stop some development or whatever, but certainly for my family, that's very important. I was married in that church. My wife's grandparents were married in that church, and her grandparents through her great-great-grandparents are buried in the cemetery there. So my son and daughter will be the 6th generation out of those groups that are buried in that cemetery. And so it's very important to us. So it's kind of, and I realize this may not impact now, but we have put in an application for the Historic Landmark Preservation Commission. And so they're helping us with that. And we've been researching. It's a little tough during COVID because the historic rooms at Duke are shut down. So that was a Protestant Methodist church originally, and so it's kind of tough to get some things. But nonetheless, that is a concern of ours, and that is actually one of the last remaining structures of what was the town of Flint Hill at one point in time. It was 2 stores. You had a mill, and you had the church there. And so our concern is that this, ruralness of the Little White Church is going to be impacted by having houses directly on the road impacts around there. And so in kind of voicing our concerns to the developers, one of the solutions to that seemed to be, well, maybe you could do like a clustering approach, which would give you a little more flexibility with septic. It would also give you a little more flexibility with your DOT approach if you were able to put buffers there, because that's kind of what the DOT is asking for. And so, one of the other things that came up when looking at that is per section 6.10, third page, and what I passed out, you'll find land that has been clear cut or forest harvested, which obviously this has. That's why it's in a timber plan. So had that originally been planned for major subdivision, now again, this isn't commercial property, it's major subdivision, it should retain a buffer along state front roads. And further, if you'll look on the 4th page of what I passed out, you'll see that in the permitted use tables at the bottom, it actually indicates throughout that Any properties that have been clear-cut as such and planned for major subdivision are required to maintain a 35-foot buffer of uncut vegetation. And so those are my primary concerns with this project. The other thing is I did want to note to you guys that in the plat here, and the Hearthwood lots have already been discussed, but in the plat here, and is that 2 homes seem to kind of be like not part of the original plan, and I get it because they're a little different than some surrounding property, 1 home and the church site. But there is a picture of Flint Hill Community Church, if any of you haven't visited the site, along with the Whitaker residence. And actually in image 2, if you're looking out from Flint Hill Community Church to the opposing, that's the site you get right now. So when people come out from their wedding or whatever from the church there, that's the view they get. So that's the request. And, I know that we appreciate all the work you guys do, and I know it's not easy right now trying to balance out this stuff, and I just ask that you try to think about it, be mindful in terms of long-term growth and making it better for all of us in the community. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hedrick. If you would you sign in over here, please? Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to speak in opposition of this request?
Chairman and Board, thank you for having me. I want to have a couple announcements
Could you give your
about
name,
my
state your
concern.
name,
My name is
please?
Kurt Storm, 3200 Ridgeworth Court, Sophia. So a couple of my questions have already been answered, but I want to know 1,300 is a base minimum for this home that could be built. Is it a modular home? Is it a stick-built home? And does it have a garage, a carport? What does it have? So those people that come out of the church there are knowing what they could be looking at. Are they going to be parking on the grass? Are they going to have 18-wheelers? What are they going to have? So that'd be one of my concerns. Lots 19 through 24, looking on the map, that's been amended even. Did an owner-builder situation on my home at 3200 Ridgeworth Court, and I have an extra lot there, and water runs through. And when we get a good rain like this past week, it runs through pretty heavy. So that's a non-build lot. I use it for green space, keep it forested, so there's no burn issues. I'm concerned that those lots, as mentioned earlier, may not perk. The water's going to run through there. I like to see people fill their dreams, build a home. This particular instance, I believe the tax base could be affected to the positive for Randolph County. Increase the base minimum of 1,300 up to 2,000 or 2,400. You can look at the homes in Liberty Run across the way. They're probably close to about a $1,000 tax bill a year. So if we increase that home base, square footage, stipulate a 2-car garage, maybe some covenants or restrictions to go along with that, we may have a better choice for consumers to pick from. The last, and I don't have a whole lot of real technical information like others, but Beckerdite Road can be a terrific speedway. Lanes are 8 foot, 9 inches wide. We get some dually trucks rearing through there first thing in the morning, late in the evening. This past Saturday, we about had a head-on collision right in front of Snyder Farm. Somebody was coming right at us, and we had to go up on Snyder Farm lawn. The width of that road is bare minimums, I believe. Could be wider, but that would require easements and contact and working with everybody on that road, and I don't know if the county wants to go through that. But that would be a recommendation to consider on this whole proposal. Beckerdite Road is the shortest distance to exit 84, 311 bypass. So there will be increased traffic potential there, and the possibility of further automobile collisions will increase as well. State does have statistics on how wide the road is, amount of vehicles, and that may someday come into play. So I want to not only just knock this program about having a subdivision go in here, but I wanted to see it done properly and benefit to everybody in the county. So thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else who'd like to speak in opposition?
Lori Weatherman, and I am a neighbor to this housing development. This land was my aunt and uncle's. Norma was my dad's sister. That piece of land there, we used to have a sawmill out there that we would go get sawdust. And we would travel out through there. So there's some old road beds out through there. There's a lot of marsh out through there, so my brothers and them say. My grandparents' store building sits on the corner, which is a very hot mess to look at, but I guess it'll be pretty for the housing development. The road conditions that y'all were talking about, those driveways that are coming through, I drive that road every morning. And I can't imagine when I'm coming and taking my granddaughter to school, where Janice said that the schools are not overcrowded. The traffic at Randolph Middle School is horrendous. The Randolph Middle School fifth graders have come to the middle school, so I can't imagine that the schools aren't crowded now because of COVID. A lot have gone remote, but I can't imagine also people living in 1,300 square foot being just grandma and grandpa with no children. I can't imagine what type of families, and I'm not knocking, but I have seen housing developments in the city, and a lot of riffraff comes through the cheaper made homes. I've seen some of these spec homes that have been built by this builder, and they're not quite like Liberty Run homes that are inside. Liberty Run is on a backside. It has one entrance in. So when I'm driving through that community to go to work or to take my granddaughter to school, I don't have to worry about 4 or 5 cars popping out in front of me. I do clients' hairs during the day, and they talk about how they live in these kind of subdivisions. And these subdivisions they're moving out of because their children have grown up, and they don't have places to park for when their families end up coming and wanting to come for Christmas. It's a cluster, is what it is. It's not beautiful. I've drove through these communities to go and take groceries when I was out for work, and I could not hardly get through some of them because people are parked out in a cul-de-sac. I can't imagine a roundabout driveway in a quarter acre or whatever that is, turnaround. I mean, I live on 5 acres, you know, and I'm like trying to figure out, because where the county told me to put my stuff, I can't drive on it. So I can't imagine where they say there's a turnaround for these homes. I just, you know, I hope that y'all rethink. I hope that the homes are bigger for our community, just for the fact that it's a rural community, and that's what it's been. 58 years of my life is, you know, Flint Hill. And it's got one housing development, but it's inside. You can't see those homes. This one here, I'm going to be driving by these driveways, and I'm going to be going, you know, braking. And it would be nice if all those could be back in there, or less of them, because honestly, I can't see 27 acres or 27 homes sitting on 29 acres. I can't imagine it. It makes me hyperventilate thinking about it. And so I just hope y'all can rethink that maybe the homes be bigger, the lots be bigger, or, you know, something where families are going to move in there, they can park their children when they grow up and have a parking space for them in their driveway and not on the side of the road or in the cluster of the cul-de-sac. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you.
Do I have to ask y'all if y'all have any questions? Y'all don't, do you?
Anyone else who'd like to speak in opposition of this request?
I'm Jody Smith. I live 125 Preserve Way, Mooresville, North Carolina. I have an interest because my family owns the land right next to this lot. It's the field, the open field that's right next to it off Beckerdite. I'm going to piggyback off of everything that everyone said since that's been up here. The driveways, it's an issue. And not just a safety issue, but just visually. You have 3 roads here coming together. It's very easy to put in a road large enough within the development, 1 entry, 1 exit. Put the buffer around the edges to make this just overall look nice and to increase the value of the surrounding homes and the surrounding land. You know, one day, maybe, I know speculation, we've discussed building just our family, 1 individual home, not 27. And that's obviously a concern that we would like to build in the country and not build on top of a development that's going to come in potentially and be right next door. I'm trying to think what else there is. You know, the safety concerns. I also have safety concerns at the end of Beeson and 311 and the school mornings and the school afternoons. I think that's a potential issue. I'm not, maybe the DOT is something that they could look at as well. The water lines, I hear, are issues. I have family members that are on these water lines, and they say the water often doesn't work properly or there's issues. So I can imagine if you're putting 27 houses on this line, what that's going to potentially create also. Other concerns, like I said, it's a lot of the same concerns that's already been brought up, but my understanding is potentially some of these homes are by the same builder who's building near the post office in Sophia. And I have nothing against anyone or any house size, 1,300 square feet, trailer, whatever, perfectly fine with me. My issue is if you're gonna bring 27 of these in, I don't want a glorified trailer park next to my land that we currently have there. And I don't, even if my land wasn't adjoining it, I don't think anybody in the area wants a potential glorified trailer park. I understand the 1,300 square foot's the minimum. However, are they saying they're only gonna allow 2 1,300 square foot homes out of the 27? It's not a guarantee. You could have, if there's a need for 1,300 square foot homes, then there's potential that every single one of them could be 1,300 square feet. I think it would be nice to increase the minimum to, you know, the average, which is 1,700 and something square feet, to kind of mirror some of the other developments that are in the area. I know, I think it was mentioned earlier, they mentioned something about the driveways as you drive down Beckerdite, that there's multiple driveways as you go down the entire road, and there are. But the one reason being is there's all these driveways, is just they didn't have 27 lots that were inside of 3 different roads. It's very easy, like I said, to come in and put a road in, create, you know, whatever shape you want to create to allow all the driveways to be internal and not external. I think that's possibly all. There's so much more that we've discussed. I've spoken to Janice, I've spoken to Beverly, and I sort of came in on the too late in this process when I called to speak to her about the land. It was already under contract. With it being towards the end of the road, not always visible when I'm visiting my mom. but we've told her that we're very interested. So I think maybe someone mentioned at some point, and maybe I'm not remembering correctly, you don't want to tell someone that they can't build on their land. I understand that it's theirs, and if that's something they'd like to do, then, you know, telling them and having everybody go against it is maybe not what you want to do, but we would like for it to be done right. And we have to think, like they were saying, years down the road, whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, we need to make sure that we have all the regulations and, you know, proper management in place now, so we're not dealing with issues later down the road. And it concerns me with the target market that this is going to bring in overall. I know a family member works for D.R. Horton, and they bring in, you know, their production builders, and there's a community in Trinity that's fairly new. Their express homes, which are their cheapest homes, their minimum square footage is 1,700. So it would just be nice to mirror off of, once again, I mean, maybe that's something you could look at too, that their minimum is 17, not 13. But like I said, back to, I've spoken to Beverly, I've spoken to Janice, and we came in too late into the game. But we are very interested. So if this is denied, it's... Okay. Oh, okay, sorry. So maybe that's all, yeah, that I have to say with our concerns.
Okay, anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you. If you would sign in over here. Anyone else to speak in opposition?
My name is Paul Whitaker. My address is 6547 Flint Hill Road, which is right across the street from where their proposed building is going on. And when I bought that place 14 years ago, I was thinking I was moving to the country. And I built a house across the road that was a lot bigger than these people are talking about. And I think it helped the appearance of Flint Hill a little bit. I didn't have no complaints about my home. But at the same time, I'd like to see, if they're going to build something over there, I'd like to see them build something nicer than a small house and have a smaller lot, a bigger lot. Because this rural community, they're going to ruin Flint Hill, in my opinion, because Flint Hill is a rural area, and it's small, and it just needs... It don't need 27 homes right across the road from me coming out right in my front yard to get out of this cul-de-sac or whatever they're proposing to do. And I just, you know, I have to voice my opinion. This land originally belonged to my wife's family, and they sold it to the Pierces years ago, like in the 40s, 50s, I'm not sure of the date. But they had originally 40 acres there. And I just hate to see it turn into this right in front of my house. And that's my opinion. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Whitaker. Anyone else to speak in opposition? Okay, well, we got one more coming up.
Thank you for your time, Chairman, Board. Derek Kimbry, 6421 Flint Hill Road. I'm going to keep it pretty simple. It's laid out here. The decision was split last time. There's been many concerns. The DOT recommends it not be built, but I'm going to keep it simple. The realtor even said, my argument here, peaceful. I live in the country to be peaceful. I want to look up in the stars when it's dark and not see hundreds of lights across the street. I understand the revenue, and I understand that it's development for them, for Randolph County. But at the end, it's all about the country. Sometimes you got to keep the country. There's farmland. People like to shoot their guns. Will we be able to shoot our guns? Will we get the law caught on us on a daily basis? But my main concern is, and I keep hearing it over and over and over, is safety. And the DOT recommends it, safety. So I look to y'all, if it goes through, to make sure that everybody in the area is safe. That's my main concern. Thank y'all. Do you have any questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in opposition to this request?
How you doing, sirs, ma'ams? My name's Matthew Wilson. I live at 2835 Beeson Farm Road. I see these houses will be built right across the street from me, and that's a lot of driveways, if you think about it. And then when you start counting all the driveways that's on this map, I mean, you're counting like 11 driveways. I mean, that's a lot to contend with every morning. Also, what I want to say, I don't want to see the trees cut down because I grow ginseng across the street for the state. I grow native plants, and they have to be pollinated by something, and those trees are what they're usually pollinated from. And this is my license right here to grow it, if y'all need to see it. I just really think it's too many houses. I mean, that's a lot to put in front of somebody and say, hey, we're going to put 27 houses right across the street from you, and you're going to have to deal with it. We don't live around here. I mean, you know, these people that's wanting to build these homes don't live here. They're not going to be there every day when these people are backing out of their yards and having parties or whatever they do, you know. They're just not going to be there. And that's all I have to say. Thank you, sir.
Okay, anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in opposition of this request? Okay, Mr. Gallimore, I believe, well, we've got one more behind you.
Hey there. I am Amy Lou Fry. I live at 2864 Jess Smith Road. Our property is less than a quarter of a mile from where this is going to be developed. I have a few points, so I'm going to go quick. First of all, I want to reiterate what everybody's saying with the DOT. I understand that they're saying they can't stop it, but if this is state officials, state engineers that are saying, this looks like a hot mess, maybe we should try something different, then that should be a flag, hopefully, that it would be considered to make this development look similar to other developments in the area with a one access point. Another concern is the like was mentioned by Mr. Storm, the watershed stream area that's on those 6 lots that he mentioned, I had called into Winston-Salem and spoke with the Division of Water Resources, a lady there, and I know that Mr. Gallimore had mentioned that, you know, they can come out and they'll have to do permitting, but my concern is on those 6 lots, I was told they could get a permit to pipe it, but there still has to be a 50-foot buffer on either side of that. So you're talking about a small, skinny, narrow, long lot that is going to have 100 foot of buffer that can't be interrupted. So where do you fit a house, a driveway, a turnaround, and a septic on that lot if you're having to buffer for that? Liberty's Run, right above this, going north on Flint Hill, they have streams in it. As Mr. Dale had mentioned to me, other developments do this regularly, you know, get permitting to have streams and stuff dealt with. Well, Liberty's Run, when it was developed, it's got undeveloped areas in that development that are not touched, and they're growing now freely as a green access area, I guess, that no one can disturb. So my question would be, you know, that should be something considered in this development. Because it is a state-recognized stream, because according to Mr. Dale, if it's in green on the GIS, that means the state and county recognizes it as a stream, so it must be dealt with accordingly, according to the Water Resources Division. Another thing is, you know, just that I understand that the landowner and the developer, you know, are trying to get the most they can for what they're developing and what they're selling, but it's not as if there wasn't or isn't other options. You know, it still can be sold. It's not like if it's not developed necessarily right away that it can't be dealt with. And I think the biggest thing for all of us is it's not that we don't want it developed. It's not that we're saying, hey, shut this thing down completely, but consider where the area that you're in. In the study done by the county, I'm assuming, Mr. Dale, some of your people, that the average square foot of homes in this area that was done in the study is 1,741 square foot. So my question is, you know, why can't we meet that? Why can't we, you know, let it be what the average is in that area and consider it, you know, to match what is there? And I understand that you're trying to be, you know, the fairness to the landowner. Well, a question for me is, what about this landowner? What about all the other landowners here that are in that community? Because it's not just a Sophia area, it's a community. It's a family and neighborhood community with people that have lived there for generations. And it's not just something that we're, you know, it matters to us, and we should matter to y'all because we're part of the Randolph community also. You know, we pay taxes, we bring in revenue. My family has a poultry farm in this area, a quarter of a mile from this area, that, you know, we pay quite a bit of property taxes and different things to the county. And that's a concern also because, you know, we have poultry houses, so some of y'all might understand this, that poultry houses don't always smell the best. So when you move in all these fine folks that want to come to the country and have a little piece of land, they have never been around this. So they don't understand that they're, you know, sometimes with the necessity of raising meat to be eaten, there's a little bit of something of, you know, inconvenience of a smell once in a while, or the trucks coming up and down the road to haul my feed or to haul my chickens. And about that family farm, I am the 6th generation farming on that land right now. My great-great-grandpa came to that area in the late 1800s and started that farm. And there's been generations of people that have worked and sacrificed and gave up things in order to pay taxes and hold on to that property. And I intend to do the same. And I have 2 young boys who are working on that farm who are coming up and going to work, and I hope continue it. So I would ask that you consider that. That, you know, I understand that we're growing and, you know, we've got to have places for people to live, but you got to feed people too. Somebody's got to feed them, and I'm one of them. So I'd like to say you're welcome. That, you know, there's people out here that are willing to do the dirty and the hard and consider us because we're struggling and we're paying and we're trying to do what's right. So I would hope that you would consider that, understand it's rated rural and agriculture, but if you continue to grow and grow and grow, well, then where does the rural and the agriculture go? Another thing is that what Mr. Hedrick had mentioned, you know, if it's going to be developed, could you please consider, the developer, I guess, would be the one to ask, you know, the buffers along the property edge to where it's not seen, and the driveways. I understand that, yes, there's a lot of driveways up and down the road, but those driveways aren't all in a very busy spot. Because if you go in that spot in the morning traffic or in the evening traffic, people are coming up and down Flint Hill trying to get on Basin or trying to get off of Basin and coming off of Beckerdike. Well, if you look at your plat there, when you're coming west on, I guess it would be considered west on Beeson, you top the hill at Caraway Church, well, it's a blind hill right there. So when you pop out of Beckerdike, you've got to look really close to the left to see what's flying up from Flint Hill on Beeson, and then you got to consider your blind hill coming from Caraway Mount or Caraway Church. So that's a tough spot. And the same thing when you come by Cameron and Jana Allen's house and coming up to this development and Mr. Whitaker's on the left, there's a blind curve right there also. So if you're going north on Flint Hill and you're looking left, there's a blind curve there that people come around really fast. So I understand there's a lot of driveways, but putting this many in such a busy, crowded, already intersection would be like having a cat full of rooms and busting a balloon. It's going to be chaos. They're going to be ducking and diving and trying to get everywhere they can. So, and I understand this also, it's been implied to me that, you know, it's not your job to tell the developer, hey, we want this or we want that, or, you know, you have to have this. And I understand that, but it is your job to say, does this fit this specific area of Randolph County? And you can say yes or no based on that, not trying to make them change it, but you can say whether or not you agree with it. I think I have one other thing. Also, like I said earlier, that this is a community, you know, many generations of families have been here. And Mr. Gallimore had said, you know, that when they were planning this, they were trying to consider, you know, what types of folks might be coming to this area, what they might be looking for. Well, I would ask y'all to consider the folks that are already there and what we might be looking for. And we're not against having new neighbors, we're not against development, but we're asking that why is this one considered a reasonable plat when it could look and be more similar to those already existing around it? So I just want to thank you for your time tonight.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in opposition?
Hey, my name is Mandy Ashley, and I live at 4065 Beckerdike Road. I live about maybe a quarter of a mile from there. My parents live on Flint Hill Road, about a quarter of a mile from there. My grandparents live on Beckerdike Road. My brother lives on Flint Hill Road. I think you get kind of where I'm going here. We're all right there together. So one of my main concerns is they've already mentioned several times. I know you guys are tired of hearing it, and we're all ready to go home. I get it. But the safety concern with Beckerdike Road, unless you live there and have to travel that road all the time, you have no idea how dangerous it actually can be. My grandparents live on Beckerdike Road, and usually once a year they will have property damage where somebody wrecks in front of their house. Last year they had their house hit. A car came off of the road, and while my kids were running outside, and thankfully we got them to safety, but It's dangerous. My grandfather, he was the barber there in town, and he's now retired, and we've had to tell him he can't go get his mail because it's too dangerous for him to get across the road and get back, because where that curve comes around, we can just see it going horribly wrong. I also have a son that's 12 years old, and I know I look way too young for that, but I do. So he will be driving, Lord help us all, in a few years. And I will be, obviously worrying anyways as a mother. But with that road and the way it is, and this development going in from where we live, he will be going on all 3 of those roads probably every day. We see each other every day. I'm at my mother's, my grandmother's, or my brother's every day. So he will be at this 3-road intersection probably every day, multiple times a day. And that just scares me. It really concerns me because I know I have been there and looked and started to pull out and had to slam on brakes I don't even know how many times. And he's a boy and he's not going to be that cautious probably. So the safety of it really is a concern, like I said. And also what Amy was saying before about the type of houses in that area, our house is, 2,800 to 3,000, somewhere around there square foot on 12 acres of land. The house across from me was just sold, and you won't see it in the MLS or any of that stuff because when he wanted to sell it, the first real estate agent that he spoke to bought it before it went on the market. The house across from me is probably, 3,000 or more square foot. 2 houses down from me, that house is currently for sale, and it is for sale for, I think, around $500. The one across from me sold for $575. Where I'm going with this is that 1,300 square foot houses don't necessarily fit in this area. Why don't we want to make it better? Why do we not want nicer, bigger homes? I don't understand that. I do understand that a lot of 1,300 square foot homes, which is only 100 square foot over the government housing size, I know that a lot of those together is going to make them a lot of money. So I get that. I understand wanting to make money. But you also have to consider the people around you and the fact that if you bring all these people in and make all these homes, I don't know that I would even want to live there anymore because of that. Because I moved there and I live there because I like being away from people, no offense, but I like having privacy. And that's part of, growing up, I never even saw a neighbor where we lived, and that's how people are there. And then you're gonna put 27 houses there and cram them all together so you can get as many as possible so you can make as much money, and all these other people are gonna leave because I'm not gonna wanna be there with everything going on, and none of these other people that you see here are gonna wanna be there either with the type of demographic that are probably gonna be purchasing 1,300 square foot homes, and no offense to them. But what I'm saying is that area, 1,300 square foot homes and a ton of them doesn't fit that area, if that's what we're talking about. And then one more thing I wanted to talk about too, is the fact that the disruption of the wildlife in that area too. My brother hunts the field that's connected to this. So he would not be, that's where he hunts every year. It's where he gets his meat every year for his freezer. He would not ever be able to hunt there again because there's not gonna be any wildlife after this is put in there. And that makes me sad because that's why we live there. We like to look outside and see a deer in our backyard, but they're not gonna be there when you come in and put 27 houses together. They're all crammed together. I just really want you to think about putting yourself into the situation. That would make me the most happy of what you would want if this was happening in your neighborhood. It's not that I think that, I don't want to tell somebody what to do with their land. I understand that. I just know that I try to be considerate, though, of the people around me, and I would like to feel that, that we're considered the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone, ma'am, could you sign in, please? Ma'am, could you sign in over here, please? Thank you. Is anyone else here to speak in opposition of this request? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Gallimore? We've got one more back here.
My name is Joe Goins. I live at 4000 Becker Dyke Road. I agree with Mrs. Ashley, who is a neighbor that I've never met, but we do like it out there. But the safety aspect is something that I think needs to be considered here, because I mowed my yard yesterday and cars are topping the hill as they come from the bridge. And Kent probably remembers those days, some of the rest of you may have, when the road wasn't even paved. It was a dirt road. And since they paved it, it's been a number of years, there's a blind spot or two on that road. And as you top the hill coming from the bridge, cars can't see you if you're mowing or if you're pulling out. I would relocate my driveway had I to do over again. It would be on the other side of my yard. We are a distance from each of our neighbors. We've got wonderful neighbors in our neighborhood, but our driveways are like 400 feet apart. And I'm not sure why, and on the Pinecrest estate side, we had to buy over 4 acres of land because it wouldn't perk otherwise. The people across the street had to buy 10, 11, or 20 acres, and I presume it's the same reason, but we can have 27 lots out of 29 acres, and that's going to perk, and that's just up the street. I'm not sure about that. That just doesn't seem right to me. There's another blind spot on the road, and most of you all know Andy Gregson and his family have a place for the heart. There's a curve there, and it's very difficult to see around that as those people are coming in and out. So we have 2 definite dangerous spots there. The increased traffic is going to make it even more dangerous. I also have a concern with, understand, do I not, that Davison Water will be coming down to that subdivision, is that correct? Okay, but they will have their own individual sewers, is that correct? Septic tanks. I'm concerned about the groundwater. What will that impact my water, the water of my neighbors in the underground stream, when you got a concentration of homes up at the top of the hill there, and you've got those sewer lines, those septic tanks that are doing their job, and we're downstream and have our water. We all have wells down there. We do not have public water. I think there's a concern there that may not have been addressed yet. So I would also understand that I wouldn't want to tell somebody what to do with their land. We're very independent in our area. I would not want somebody to tell me what to do with my land, but I did have to do some things because the county said I had to. But what I would like to do is, as Mrs. Ashley said, and some of the other speakers, we would like to see homes, as we grow, be more in line with the progressive nature of that area and have something larger than a minimum of 1,300 square feet. I also would like to know, are they going to be site-built? Are they going to be bricked, front, sides, back, like most of the rest of us have? Are they going to have carports or garages? Is there going to be 1, 2, or 3? I would like to see some of those things added to go along with the character of what's going on in the county now as we try to grow and present ourselves. There are lots available at the other subdivision, and someone may say, well, that's just too expensive. Land's expensive, and building's expensive, but people are doing it left and right today. So I would like to see a little more controlled growth there with that land. Not that it can't sell, but just have fewer lots there. I'm just not sure why it can be 27 lots out of 29 acres with all the requirements that need to be done. I appreciate your time. Any questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else that'd like to speak in opposition to this request?
My name is Julie Smith, 2857 Jess Smith Road. I agree with what has been said. Amy Lou's my sister. We have the poultry farm together, and this is just a real concern. I agree with what they said about the congestion, the safety, and then just the fact that we have a working poultry farm within sight almost of this development. So I just want it on record that I am in opposition of this development, as it is. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, maybe in light of the fact that we're hearing a lot of the same things, we could just take a show of hands of people here that are in opposition to the request and get that count.
Okay, could we see a show of hands of everyone that's in opposition to this request?
If you could just keep them up until they get that count, please. $20? 21. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Go ahead.
Okay, again, is there anyone else that'd like to speak in opposition to this request? Okay, at this time, Mr. Gallimore, if you'd
Wayne?
like to come up and address some of the concerns,
Wayne, could I ask a question first?
please.
It might clear up something and save Mr. Gallimore some time. A lot of people, one of the main issues has been house size, the 1,300 square feet. That's not something that we can address, is it?
We cannot dictate house size to him. I
Yeah,
mean, he can
I mean,
agree
we-
to it on his own, but we can't tell him what size house to build.
I mean, it's just not something we have control over, what size house a person builds.
Okay, Mr. Gallimore, if you'd like to come up and answer some of these folks' questions that they addressed.
One of the things I keep hearing tonight is house size. You can't address it, but I can. If you look at the price of construction today, I can tell you that a 1,300 square foot house today, and I think Janice and Angela would agree with this, we're talking $200,000, guys. I got to take offense to riffraff. I don't think people are buying $200,000 houses that can be classified as riffraff. One thing that some folks had some concerns about, there is a proposed set of restricted covenants, right, Jay?
Yes, sir.
Most of the folks speaking tonight aren't subject to any restrictions, except the county restrictions, which are pretty minimal. I get it. Listen, what part of Randolph County wasn't farmland? What part was not? And my answer to you is it was all farmland. If we're going to have an opportunity to bring citizens into our community, we have to furnish them a place to live, guys. Now, I get safety. One thing I know for sure, everybody in Asheboro used to go to High Point and Archdale via Caraway Mountain Road. Then it turns into Hillsville and Flint Hill and Archdale Road's got a bunch of names. I know that the interstate being built has changed a lot of that traffic. Apparently, there's still a lot of traffic. But I know a lot of folks don't take that route anymore. I took it for years, but we don't anymore. If there's an issue up there, I would really beseech the citizens to contact our State Highway Patrol. They can set up some things that can change some speeds pretty quickly. Just takes a few citations for people to get the point. And I think that's something, if you guys haven't addressed, you might want to address. Construction costs, back to the $200,000 house. OSB, 12 months ago, a board of sheeting that's used in construction was $8 to $10. Its last count I had, it was $34 a sheet. There is no cheap way to build a subdivision. And the land cost is just a part of it, just a small part of it. There's all kinds of, as we talked about earlier today, erosion control. I get buffers. Jay, is there not some county restrictions on buffers?
As they stated, there has to be a 50-foot buffer on either side of the stream. And if you clear cut the property, actually strip the entire thing, you do have to maintain a 35-foot
So to
buffer.
put
But
some
if you
people in it-
select cut, that's not the case.
So to put some people at ease, you would expect a developer to be conscientious to all those restrictions?
Yes, sir.
So that's already been taken care of. As I'd said earlier, it's hard to do this job. And listen, I grew up in the country. I'd be a tobacco farmer today if my grandfather had lived a few more years. An ex-tobacco farmer, I might add, because we're not doing that anymore. Kemp, you were a dairy farmer. How many dairy farmers are left? Not many. We're not getting people today. I know I applaud folks in the audience who still have poultry farms and chicken houses. It's an essential part of what we do, and it's necessary. But our society today, we're not growing any more farmers. People want somewhere to live. If you talk to Klausner and Hughes Furniture and many others, they're crying, they're begging for employees. I noticed a sign this week coming in from Ramsor that Klausner had put up. They're offering a $500 bonus for workers. And then there are folks that tell you there are no jobs. But if we're going to progress this county, if we're going to have a reliable tax base, and we all share in that tax base, we're going to have some form of growth. And we have to look at the economics that exist today. I wish there were more farmers. I think they're the salt of the earth. I really do. But this was exposed, this property, as I understand it, and I want to go on record, I'm not selling this property, nor did I have it listed. I've been asked to speak. But I understand it was on the market for 2 years. 2 years. And this is the first reasonable opportunity to sell the property. So when you're exposed to the market for 2 years, particularly in the real estate market that we've been exposed to in the last couple of years, and you have no takers, then you got to look outside the box. Nobody wants an unsafe situation. You know, if I didn't know better, I would believe tonight that 27 people are going to pull out of their driveways at exactly the same time. I don't think that's the case. All of them have turnarounds. These are going to be people who are going to invest their life savings, probably the biggest investment they'll ever make. They have families. I heard a thing about the church. Mr. Hedrick, I know all about the small churches. My family gave land at Parks's Crossroads. What I would hope would be that these people would be members of that church, many of them. Be a great opportunity for growth in that church. That's what I would hope. Guys, you're going to do what you feel is best for our county. But if we don't grow, we can just kind of roll up the sidewalk and we're done. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gallimore.
I got a couple questions that Mr. Gallimore didn't cover.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go away.
That's just be like my wife. She does it all the time.
She gave me pointers.
Site built.
They were all site built, but they all will be site built.
Okay.
As I understand it.
Brick? If so, how many sides?
I don't think that's talked about in the restrictions, so I'm sure there'll be some brick
It was just brought
involved,
up tonight.
foundations. I don't know. I would frankly, if you're trying to build something that's going to stay under $200,000 a day, I got to tell you, it probably won't be in all reality. The numbers don't work. I'll go back to Hearthwood. Great, I know Dobbins. I know Mr. Ridge. That development has tried to go to full absorption for years. It's still not there. Because there's not enough buyers. There's just not enough buyers. So we either furnish them something that they can afford to buy, or they go somewhere else. Look at Oak Ridge, north of Greensboro. Look at Kernersville. They're having to take farms and they're making subdivisions because it's a prosperous area. There's a lot going on. And there'll be a lot more, but if we don't have an opportunity.
What's the average cost of housing up there?
Say it again?
In the Oak Ridge
Oak
area,
Ridge,
what's the
very
average cost of
expensive.
housing?
On quarter-acre lots, some of them half-acre, I might add. Because land costs in Guilford County is going through the roof. So people are naturally going to look toward Randolph County. I'd like to think when they get here, they'll fall in love with us. How about you?
Well, you said that this property's been on the market for 2 years.
2 years, as Ms. Spainhour just mentioned to me.
I heard their statements. I'm a property owner, and I've had property in my area that was put up for sale, so within a month.
We have them sell in 10 minutes now.
Yeah.
But
So
this property has not.
this particular property just did not sell.
Has not
2
sold.
years. And there's several pieces of property in my area that have sold. And they sold in a very short time. I have a hard time trying to figure out why this one wouldn't sell.
Well, I'd have to speak to Janice on that, but normally, I think she spoke on it earlier, people want them subdivided or broken up, and I think this family, who's not unlike many people in this room, I think this property has been in a family for generations, if I think I'm right to say that. So when you've been exposed for 2 years and you hadn't sold, we kind of call that a clue. There's something's not quite working out. Maybe it's been too much money. I didn't price it. I'm not involved with the marketing on that property. But this, I think Janice didn't say it quite this way, but as real estate brokers, when we represent a client, our responsibility is to look at the highest and best use of the property.
We understand that.
That's our job. And I think after 2 years of marketing, and I'm sure much conversation, that the opinion that this was the most highest and best use for these particular owners, and that's who we're subservient to, are the sellers. And not to say that we ignore the community. The community is important. I don't think that you're going to find that this is going to be, I'm very careful about what I don't say. Look, I don't care what you live in. You're one of God's children. Everybody deserves somewhere to live. And if we don't build them and don't have them, we're really asking them to go somewhere else. And maybe that's what this community wants, is to be left alone and everybody goes somewhere else. But I assure you that's what's going to happen if we don't offer some formula of housing. The economics don't work if you start cutting this thing back. They just don't. I mean, I'm sure you guys are over there thinking, can we do half as many lots? Can they be twice as big? Can we build twice as big a house? And the economics won't work. And then we'll be back on the market, and it'll be another 2 years or more. That's the way it works.
And then you had mentioned, and it was mentioned but I don't think they heard, or the person heard what you said. There are 27 lots, but they're not all guaranteed to perk. Half of them might not perk, 10 might not perk, 2 might perk, or they might all perk.
There could be half of them that don't perk, and if that happens, then the developer's going to have to make a decision and reboot. That will happen. And, they've talked about Liberty Run, about being some green areas. It's really funny in Randolph County. I can tell you why that happens generally. Maybe it was planned in Liberty Run. I don't know. I haven't read the documents. But most of the time when you find a green area, it's because a lot wouldn't perk, and they never could sell it, and you just hope a neighbor will buy it. We just finished a project with Equalization Review at Ashburn Country Club. The septic systems are in the fairways. And the owner now has decided he didn't want that. So he's going to abandon all of those lots out there, abandon every one of them, and put them back in the country club. Because he said, I don't want the golfers traipsing through sanitary systems. Makes sense to me. Makes a lot of sense to me. I understand this is difficult. I understand the emotion. And if I lived there, truthfully, I probably wouldn't feel any different. Probably wouldn't. But honestly, when we look at the long-range plans, the ordinances, the Unified Development Plan, it's the playbook developers have to go by. Lay the rules out, and what do we have to do? And if they follow the rules as best they can, then they hope to be approved. Any other questions?
I got one more. Was there any discussion since it was, I made the motion last month to table it, and then some more information, you said, from DOT. Has there been any discussion about interior roads with DOT or feasibility about, because it was mentioned by 3 or 4 people that they weren't really against the project as long, it sounded like the repetition was the driveways. So has there been any discussion about internal cul-de-sacs?
What was done to date is that the 4 drives that were adjacent to the cul-de-sac on Flint Hill Road were turned into the cul-de-sac road to take those 4 drives off of Flint Hill Road. I thought that was a pretty strong move, because that means the road has to be built before any of those lots can be utilized. It's always the attempt of any developer to try to get some seed money back with the roads on the frontage so that you can afford to move forward with your project with the dollars it takes to build these roads. It takes a lot of money to do them and do them right. It's not easy.
But would that be a feasible option because it's come up so much?
You're talking about cutting another cul-de-sac, which would lose landmass?
Well, when I used to live in Archdale, I lived on Aldridge Lane, and there was an east and a west Aldridge Lane, and there's two cul-de-sacs that went down, and all the houses were off of that. Just instead of a dead end, it was a cul-de-sac. I didn't know if that was a possibility or even researched, or because it seems like the DOT driveway issues come up.
I've spoken to what probably would be the developer if this is approved, and remember, the Pierce family's asking for this. Not a developer, but there's a developer probably in the wings, if you will. But if this changes, then it's going to have to change price points. And as I understand it, if the price points change, the deal's probably not going to happen at all. Jay, I don't know what you guys do in the county. I know in the city, they like to see access into a property, direct access with fire trucks, EMTs, and so forth. When you build a long series of, Steeplegate's a perfect example. You better have a compass when you go in there because you may not get out. I don't know if that could never be approved in Asheboro because fire truck gets in there and trying to get out, somebody has a wreck and there's a problem trying to get to a home fire. It gets really hard. So there are some advantages to having more direct access. Anybody's ever called an ambulance, and my son did this morning for his wife. You want direct access. You want it, and you want it fast. This does give direct access. I understand safety, but safety covers many different points. Guns, I don't live in city limits. I'm in the ETJ, and every once in a while, I kind of had to chuckle. There'll be something that'll come out on the neighborhood website about they heard shooting. Well, it's perfectly legitimate unless you're putting someone in danger. It's perfectly legitimate in the county. There's no question about that. And I wouldn't ask anyone in this room to change one bit about how they do their business or how they handle their day. What I would ask them is to understand that people need a place to live, and these folks have tried diligently for 2 years to sell the property, and this is an opportunity that they have. And I think Janice and Angela both made good points. Riffraff really bothers me. It kind of stuck my craw a little bit. These will be families. They have children. They go to school. They go to work. They mow their grass. They have restricted covenants that they must adhere to. So you can only put so much protection in a request. And I've seen the code book, and I think they're trying as best they can. If they got a traffic problem up there with speeders, and I guess I probably sped through there myself, but I've also been stopped and given tickets places before too. So I would beseech the State Highway Patrol to concentrate on that area and slow some folks down if that's what they're doing.
Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Gallimore?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll close the public hearing, and we'll have a discussion or a motion from the board.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, let me thank everybody who spoke tonight, for or against. And I want to thank this board for entertaining my motion last month that I made to table it to get some more information. That's how we make these decisions, based on good information, based on citizen input. Anytime anybody talks about their house or their area, it's very passionate. I appreciate that. I'm 61 years old, and I'm very passionate about the things that I do. My wife's a lifetime resident of Randolph County. She's a wonderful lady. We lived in the city of Trinity, or lived in the city of Archdale. We live in Trinity now. And what I was explaining, I lived on a street that had the cul-de-sacs on both ends. And Mr. Wood had 100 acres behind me that he farmed tobacco. And when he passed away, they built Bradford Downs. And I felt a little betrayed because, I mean, I looked out there every day, but it wasn't mine. I didn't own it. If I wanted it to be mine, I should have bought it. I couldn't have bought it because this was kind of a weird thing that I've never seen before. Mr. Wood had it in his will that his property was to be developed because, and this is how it was worded, that people will build homes, people will work, the furniture factories will build furniture to go in those homes, and that's what he wanted to see, and that was his property. He had that wish. My wife and I went out off of Finch Farm Road. We bought 5 acres. People probably said the same thing about us coming out there. There's 17 homes on 117 acres that were going to ruin the area. I got deer in my backyard, turkey, and there were tree stands up at the edge of the property. So I appreciate people hunting and doing that. You're still able to do that. I'm a very big advocate for you get to do what you want to do as long as it's legal on your own land. This board can't determine sizes of homes. It's against the law. So part of the thing I'm saying tonight is I'm trying to, if you hadn't been to one of these, I wanted to let you know that. I'd love it to be 3,000 square foot and to fit into an area, but we can't dictate that. It's against the law.
That's relatively new.
Yes. Listen to everybody's concerns, and I have some concerns. I have safety concerns. I'm concerned about driveways and things like that. But I just wanted to kind of tell you that you don't want me showing up and telling you what you can do at your house. And I'm saying this with all the respect in the world, and I appreciate y'all coming tonight. But there are some rules that have to be followed. And like I said, we can't make the house size. We can't override water resources. If they say there's got to be a buffer, there's going to be a buffer there. Ours is to protect the development of the county. But I did want to address that we moved out to Trinity, and probably somebody had the same concerns that here we came out there. But again, my wife grew up in Randolph all her life, and we love Randolph County. And obviously other people love it because we built some pretty darn good schools. And we've got excellent teachers, excellent superintendent, and everybody is experiencing what Randolph County has to offer. But I just wanted to thank the board for allowing the motion last time to stand so we could hear this, we could get some more information, and I too have a lot of concerns about 12. It is a total of 12 driveways coming out onto the roadway. But I'll be quiet now and let somebody else speak.
Mr. Chairman, I feel my biggest concern, I counted 13 driveways out of 27 lots. And I'm not sure in all my years, I haven't been on this board that long, but it's been quite a number of years, I've ever seen 50% roughly of the driveways going out onto a really heavily traveled road. That really does concern me. And there's 3 intersections, basically. And so half of those houses are going to have driveways going right out into those roads. And I understand Mr. Gallimore said they don't all go at the same time, but most people go to work close to the same time. They're going to have kids. They go to school at the same time. They come home at the same time. So my biggest concern, and then when the DOT doesn't give this thing their blessing because of that makes me think twice. They know more about traffic than I do, I hope. So I just wanted to say that I've never seen a development where it was fronted on 3 sides of fairly heavily traveled roads and 50% of the driveways emptied directly onto those roads.
Thank you.
I'd like to go along with that. That was our major concern, and we didn't have an answer from DOT then, and we really don't have an answer now, just that they don't really agree with it. So if you look at that, we asked them to go back and change the plan, the access points. And they did change those 4 lots to take 4 driveways off the road. But, if this was to ever get approved, I think it should be with a road that comes in off of Flint Hill and comes out either on Beeson or Beckerdike. Just sort of loop through and maybe adjust your lots. He may not be able to get 27 lots, but, we have to do what's best for the community. I just feel like the density of this development, after what we went through at the one over off of Providence Church Road, that was 50% of the land, less than 50% of the land was lots. It was a lot of lots, but less than 50% of the land was actually lots. To have almost the entire site being lots is extremely dense. So I think the traffic with the driveways, I think the width of the lots, I think we need to look at that long and hard going forward, that a narrow, long lot to get that acre is not good for your neighbor because the houses are on top of each other. I think that's a concern I have. But those roads, Flint Hill Road and Beeson Farm Road and Beckerdike, are heavily traveled. We will be adding, if there's 27 homes, we'll be adding 54 cars going to either work or school every day, and in the morning and evening. And the intersection at Beeson Farm and 311 is already congested, and with the school traffic there at New Market, I mean, if the DOT is not going to put a light in, I just don't see how that many cars is going to get out safely onto 311. But those are my concerns.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to make a comment because just from a design point, I feel with these folks because we are in the country. I live in the country, but I'm also all over the middle of the state, and I'm in large cities. They're coming our way, and they like what we have. They love that country. I was just telling him as we came in, I have people come in my office from Charlotte, and they just, oh, we love this out. Farmer, it's just so beautiful. This is just the most beautiful place. Yes, it is. Your place is. But I feel that this is a good opportunity for us as a whole, for the county. We need to recognize this and then talk to our commissioners, express to them that, it may cost us a little bit more for these tracks to be developed, but it needs to be to where they can be in agreement and have buffer areas and have entrances so that when you drive by, we don't lose that pretty attractive 6th generation look that you have where you live, and make it as beautiful for everyone that passes by with development. And, when you're out, drive through some of the larger cities, see what places like Greensboro doing with buffer areas out. I was up north last week. I had appointments from, all the way up north Greensboro, all the way back out through Kernersville and Stokesdale. And you still have that meandering country area, but they've done a good job trying to protect it. And because it's what people come there for. And we want those people to come to Randolph County, but we want them to come and let's maintain what we have. So I just want to, we're having our conversation, but I just want to go on the record so that all of you can kind of help with the county as we move forward in this, because it's going to take all of us to think together.
Yeah, I think it's time that we, I think we need to do a comprehensive overview of our growth management plan and our UDO to encompass some of these ideas that we have now. Right now, it's really not defined. It's hard on the builders to walk into a situation like this if things are changing. So it's probably about time for us to take an overview and let's get the right direction. But the 3 things that hit me tonight was the safety and well-being, the community impact, and does it fit? To me, it does not. So I'll make a motion to deny.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, this request has been denied. Thank y'all. At this time, the board would like to take a short recess. We'll be back out shortly.
told you. I told you that was gonna take forever.
That wasn't
This got caught while the bus stopped. That was whole business. I told you. I gotta read.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Lordy, lordy.
Okay.
Amen, brother.
We certainly wish you the best.
Wish your family the best.
Amen.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Ain't a man 35 years old and have stroke. Yes, sir, thank you.
I know you get tired of me.
Okay, we'll get started back again, and at this time, we need a reading of the Unified Development Plan and a motion on that.
If you could just make the motion as it's stated in there.
Yes, I'll make the,
Legal mumbo jumbo there.
the motion to deny this rezoning request to rezone the specified parcel on the rezoning application. To the request zoning based upon the determination of consistency, finding of reasonableness, and the public interest statements that are included in the planning board agenda submitted during the rezoning presentation as may be amended, incorporated into the motion to be included in the minutes, and that the request is not consistent with the Randolph County Growth Management Plan.
Okay, I have a motion, have a second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, our next request for rezoning comes to us from Melissa and Jimmy Lee Hill Jr. of Climax, North Carolina. They're requesting to rezone 1.06 acres on Ramseur Julian Road. It's approximately 350 feet north of Scheller Drive in Liberty, from rural growth area to HCCD Highway Commercial Conditional District. The proposed conditional district would specifically allow a 30 by 40 foot warehouse type structure with an office space as per their site plan. It's my understanding they do electrical work. They will be operating out of this building, but the trucks will leave and they'll go work elsewhere, but this is where materials, et cetera, are stored. Here is the yellow location map that we all know that shows the location of residential structures in the area. Here's a site plan of the proposed building on the site, aerial photograph of the property. And finally, we have some photographs of the request location and the surrounding area. And Mr. Chairman, that is an overview of the request.
Okay, thank you. Anyone here to speak on behalf of this request?
Yes, my name is Jimmy Lee Hill Jr., 2764 Briar Oak Drive, Climax. We're basically just, like it says, it's going to be a warehouse. We do not electrical, but we do low voltage. We do security cameras and such. So basically just a place for us to put our stuff and the guys to meet, leave out in the morning and head to jobs. So no public interaction, few delivery trucks, and that's about it.
What would generally be the hours of operation?
Everybody shows up about 7 o'clock, 7:30, and then we all leave during the day and then come back in the afternoon whenever the job's done, 5 o'clock, so.
So the employees' cars will park there?
Yes, sir.
And the trucks will be parked overnight?
Some trucks, most of the lead techs do drive their trucks home at night.
How many people do you employ?
I have 4 people right now.
Is there a natural buffer there on the property?
There is right now. However, when we go to clear some of the lot, it's a lot of dead trees. So I was going to put some type of buffer up between, if you see on the lot there, that driveway that's right there between me and the next house, that's mine. and it goes to the lot that's behind me, which is ours as well. So if I have to put I'll put a buffer right down that driveway.
Anyone else have any questions from the board?
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Trill, if you would sign in over there, please. Oh, you did? Okay, thank you. Anyone else here to speak in favor of this request? Okay, anyone here to speak in opposition of this request? Okay, seeing none, we'll close this portion of the hearing, and we'll have a motion or discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I live about a quarter of a mile from here, and I know these folks. I know his business, and I know all the neighbors. There was her father had a welding shop right across the street that was a lot more, it was a lot more of a nuisance to people in the neighborhood, and they were okay with that. So I know no one will be in opposition to this, and based on that, I make a motion to approve this rezoning request to rezone the specified parcel and the rezoning application to the requested zoning district based upon the determination of consistency and findings of reasonableness and public interest statements that are included in the planning board agenda, submitted during the rezoning presentation as may be amended, incorporated into the motion to be included in the minutes, and that the request is also consistent with the Randolph County Growth Management Plan.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second, since he listed, is it his wife's name first? It's a smart man.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Your request has been granted. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, our next request for rezoning comes to us from Mr. Tony Hurley and Vicki Harris, Randleman, North Carolina. They're requesting to rezone 2.65 acres at 122 Spring Forest Road in the Tabernacle Township from HCCU Highway Commercial Conditional Use to Light Industrial. The current zoning allowed an automotive repair business in a 30 by 80 foot building. The property has evidently been for sale for a while, and he's asking for a straight zoning because he's had some trouble moving it with the conditional use zoning, and he believed it would make it more marketable, is my understanding. Y'all probably remember it as the Cycle Center. Here's the request location, aerial photograph of the site. Photographs, picture one is the building that I'm sure everybody's familiar with, and as well as the surrounding area. Mr. Chairman, that is an overview of the request.
Okay, thank you. Is anyone here to speak on behalf of this request?
My name is Tony Hurley. I live at 2213 Old Liberty Road, Randleman, North Carolina. This property was originally my brother's property. He developed it back in the mid-90s for a Hurley cycle and ATV, and then he later added the lower building for automotive repair. And he passed away in 2017. And we've had it on the market since August of 2017. And we keep running into a conflict with the conditional use. And most people that look at the property, they either want it for highway commercial or light industrial. And we flip-flop backwards and forwards between the two with everybody who looks at it. So we're requesting just to drop the conditional use. And most people looking at it right now are light industrial, to the best of my knowledge. So that's the reason we want to go with light industrial, to try to help sell the property. And we're not looking to do any more to the property. There is one part of the property, it's 2.65 acres. There's a little strip that when we divided the property out, that where the property line was at, the buffer zone that was supposed to be there was going to be on the other property. So we had to take in an extra 15-foot strip, which is residential, agricultural, that will be part of this property when it's sold. We just want to make sure that was clear, because it's really 2.733 acres when it's added together. Other than that, nothing's going to be changed other than what you see. It's just that we don't know how to market it with the conditional use. We've had a lot of people look at it. We've only had one person who's looked at the property that was interested in doing motorcycles. And that was it. And most other people are either wanting a warehouse or light industrial. So we would like to get it zoned light industrial to maybe help on the market, because we run into a problem. People don't want to go through the process of rezoning. And we actually had the property sold at one time, and kind of COVID, we had to move the closing date, and then we still couldn't get on the calendar, so had to move the closing date, and we went from April to July, and the people terminated the contract in June. So that didn't work out too good. But since then, like I said, we've been flip-flopping back between highway commercial or light industrial. Now, if we get it on light industrial, we may be coming back for highway commercial. That's just the market we're in right now. But right now, we feel like it would be easier to market under light industrial without the conditional uses. And it's been on the market for 3 years.
Okay. Anyone from the board have any questions for Mr.
I think he needs a bigger umbrella.
Bigger umbrella. I wish there was some way that we could market it as either highway commercial or light industrial, but I don't think that's possible. Because like I say, if the realtor shows it somebody today, it'll be light industrial. If he shows it somebody next week, it'll be highway commercial. And if we go under contract, we'll most likely be coming back for highway commercial. If we don't go under contract, it just keeps flip-flopping. But it's always between the two. It's always highway commercial or light industrial. And everybody falls in one or the other. Some of them actually fall partly in one, partly in the other. Depends on how you want to look at it. And so that's the two we're dealing with. So right now, we choose light industrial.
Whichever one you have, they wanted the other one.
Probably. But the part of the process is like we said, if somebody comes tomorrow and say they want to buy it, it depends on how we get on the calendar. Y'all know that well. If you miss the cutoff date by one day, you're not looking at the next month, you're looking at the next month. And if you get there a day early, you're looking at the first coming up month. People don't understand that. And they think we're trying to pull something over on them that it can't be rezoned. So right now, under the conditional use, it's going to have to be rezoned no matter what we do, unless somebody comes in and wants to do motorcycles. And that's not happening. So that we feel like if we can get light industrial, it would help out with the marketing and get this property up and going again.
Okay. Anybody from the board have any questions for Mr. Harley? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak on behalf of this request? Anyone here who'd like to speak in opposition to this request? Okay, at this time, we'll close this portion of the public hearing and we'll have a discussion or a motion.
Mr. Chairman, this is a good building. I go by there a lot, and it's just one of those things.
Yes, it's an excellent location on a major highway. Somebody could buy it and do well with it.
I think so, and I think there's no one here to speak in opposition. Shouldn't delay it. I'm going to make a motion that we approve the rezoning request to rezone the specified parcel on the rezoning application to the requested zoning district based upon the determination, consistency, and findings of reasonableness and public interest. Statements that are included in the planning board agenda submitted during the rezoning presentation, and as many be amended, incorporated, or into the motion to be included in the minutes as well as the site plan. With any and all agreed upon revisions also incorporated into the motion, and that the request is also consistent with the Randolph County Growth Management Plan.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, Mr. Hurley, your request has been approved. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, our last request for rezoning comes to us tonight from Phil Burgess Construction Incorporated. The property is currently zoned for subdivision. This is the Ace Avant project. You're probably all familiar with it. They're not looking to add anything or take away from the 7-lot site-built subdivision that exists now. The reason we're here is because they're asking to change the deed restrictions. They want to move from a 1,700 square foot home to 1,500 square feet. Now, in this particular case, the deed restrictions were actually adopted as some of the conditions for the rezoning at the time. Sometimes this happens, sometimes it doesn't. In this case, it did. Since they are requesting a change in the deed restrictions, that is a change in one of the conditions was our thinking, and for that reason, the board would need to approve the change in house size. And Mr. Chairman, that is an overview of the request. There's the subdivision as it is and has been for a little while now.
Okay, thank you. Anyone here to speak on behalf of this request?
Hi, I'm Debbie Burgess. I'm Phil Burgess's wife, and my address is 615 Wright Country Road, Ramsor. I'm here to, as you stated, to request a change in the restriction size from a 1,700 to a 1,500 square foot house. A couple of reasons being, the main reason, as has been already noted today, earlier, the building costs have gone up tremendously. For a 1,700 square foot house, you're looking on an average of an increase in the last 6 months to about $30,000. And we feel like we're going to limit the person or the buyer that would could cover this cost. The sales price to the market price right now for a 1,700 square foot house is like $170 a square foot. So you're putting it around right at $290,000. So if we could cut it back to 1,500, that should save or cut back the sales price to at least $255, which would help market the houses. And like we said, we're not changing anything. They're 2 to 2.5 acre tracts, and we don't want to. We build stick-built homes. You know, we try to keep our quality up, and we don't want to have to cut back any other way. But in order to build a good home, and we're just trying to keep the size down a little bit. And another reason is there is a power line that runs through a portion of most of those lots, especially one of them, and that would help to reduce, you know, we could limit the size of that home, especially I think it's on lot 4. So I'm just requesting to modify the restrictions just on the size of the home, the stick-built home, and I appreciate your consideration and listening to my request.
Okay. Anyone from the board have any questions?
How long has this plan been in place, the one that we're looking at now, with the 1,700 square feet?
Off the top of my head, I don't know, but it's been a while.
And I think how many lots are there? 6 lots?
We purchased 6 lots. There's a 7th lot that the Ace Avant still owns.
Right. But there's 6 lots in the subdivision, and that's why they're able to come back and do this, because those lots haven't been developed. Right. I just wanted to
out of curiosity, I just wondered how long it had been in place.
Anyone else have any questions?
What are the widths of those lots at the road?
The road frontage is like 100 and, let me see if I've got one right in front of me. 112, probably average around 112, 115. So they're fairly, deep, and which would also help with if we could do a little bit smaller. They wouldn't be so close to the neighbors.
This is the one we had issues in the beginning that was coming from this cul-de-sac in the back. They wouldn't build a bridge, and we've looked at this several times.
Yes, we have. I have no questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak in favor of this request? Anyone like to speak in opposition to this request?
Take my hearing aids out. Mr. Chairman, board members, Gene Hite, I own the property right across from where we're speaking of being developed. It's not that I'm against the development. I think we've been here before on this deal. My problem is that in the rezoning, so to speak, we're going back from 1,700, which we've been here before on this, to 1,500. The 1,700, I feel like, is incomparable to the homes around it. And I feel like when you drop in size, you're degrading the homes next to it. You're hurting their value. And also, I reckon I'm being a little bit selfish. Like I said, I own the farm right across the road. And I feel like if we build houses less than what we've done approved it for, it's going to devalue my property. And also, I think it devaluates the property of the homes that are already there. Now, about 2 miles up the road, they're developing a farm. And they're building houses as fast as they can build them and having them sold before they ever finish them. And they're 1,700 plus. They're nice homes. They're very comparable to the homes that around me in the area. And this is what I'm thinking about. And also, I feel like by building those smaller homes, tax-wise, it's going to hurt the county. Because they're going to get more tax money off of a 1,700 square foot house or a 2,000 square foot house over a 1,300 or 1,500 square foot house. And I think that it upgrades the community a lot more than a 1,300 or a 1,500 square foot house. Of course, you answered my question earlier when you said that y'all don't have the ability or the where you can dictate what size house it's built. I understand that. But what I'm saying is I'd like to see it comparable to what's there. I think it helps the value of the folks there and as well as my property. But after these prices are being thrown out, it's what it's cost to build and what houses are bringing, I might ought to sell my farm. I think I'd make a whole lot more money on that, wouldn't I, Ralph, than I would in the cow business.
I don't know how cows are doing now, but
What?
I don't know how cows are doing now, but I know they go up and down.
They ain't doing that good, I tell you that. So maybe I need to talk to one of these real estate people. But anyway, Mr. Chairman, thank you, and the board as well.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else speak in opposition?
My name's Wayne Craver. I lived at 7438 Racine Road, And the concern I have with that was kind of like Mr. Hyatt just said. My house is around 2,100 square feet, and we're looking at a 1,500 square foot project. I don't know if these are going to be spec homes. I don't know if we're going to wait till the purchaser comes in with the land and says, hey, I want this floor plan and I want to do that. So I don't know what's going to go on with that. But anyway, we're talking about a property that's going to be about 75% the size of mine. I know what I pay on my taxes, and I imagine those people won't pay as much as I do. I'm wondering how much this is going to devalue my property. What's going to happen to my property value? She's already answered the questions that it would be stick-built homes. That's a plus. I like that. But, we're talking about 6 lots right there on Racine Road. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with Racine Road. When you go from Providence Church Road going north towards 62, as soon as you come out of that curve right there, I'm the guy in the curve. I'm the first house out of that. There's one property beside of me that adjoins their property. The property beside of me is approximately 150 foot. When I go in or out of my driveway, you better look twice, both ways, not just once. It's dangerous. This is my 25th year here at this property. And so far, I've replaced 4 mailboxes. None of it's by vandalism. It's all by people losing control coming out of that curve there when they start to get on the straightaway between my house and my next door neighbor. When you add 6 more properties up here with 6 driveways leading out onto Racine Road, I think we're going to be asking for problems. I know we're going to have an additional bus stop up there, so you got children you might have to deal with. And I'm concerned a little bit about the safety of that situation. As a matter of fact, the traffic and the speed that goes on there, Officer Brooks, he's a state trooper, I gave him permission to use my driveway and clock these people. And just like Mr. Hyatt said, we've been here before. I've been here, and I spoke my piece a few years ago about what goes on with that speed right there and how dangerous it is. And I'm only talking about the times I've replaced mailboxes. I'm not talking about the times where one car went in the ravine in my ditch and goes out and he wipes out that pipe under mine and the pipe out of my next door neighbors and tore down the fence all the way across the front of their property. So, people have no respect for the speed in that area. I feel like it's going to be a danger to the people that do inhabit that area. Let's see. And, I'm kind of concerned about what kind of environmental impact it's going to have on the water table in that area. You folks know a whole lot more about that stuff than I do. I don't know what kind of water surveys they've taken up here. These people, I don't know. As far as I know, I just saw the sign go up here about 6 or 8 weeks ago. Another company had it for sale. I don't know what realtor, but then I saw Burgess Realty on there, and I know nothing about them, and I called and inquired about it, and I spoke with, I think, Mr. Burgess's daughter. And, I was kind of straightforward. I'm just curious as to what's going to go on here, because I have the right to know because I am a landowner and I'm one property away from it. So, that's the concerns I have with it. And like I said, I was curious, is this going to be spec houses or are they going to wait until the property is purchased and then let the property owner, decide what floor plan goes on that property? So I never heard that answered. And it can be either? Okay.
There's nothing in this application which specifies that. If the applicant wants to answer that, they can.
I'd be glad to. Oh, it will be both. We've got a pre-sale right now on lot 3.
Okay.
And it's over 1,700 square feet.
Okay.
We just want the opportunity, if we have to reduce it to 1,500, that's all.
Okay.
And, but yes, it would be both.
Okay. Now,
Custom and possibly spec to, but we build so fast, we're so busy right now, we can't even build any spec homes.
Okay.
Because they're pre-sales.
now, do you own all of the land from the Ward family back that way?
We own those 6 lots right there. I don't, that's all we own.
The 19 acres behind that is not your property?
The 6 lots, the 1 through 6.
Okay.
That's,
All right.
yes.
That's all I wanted to ask. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else to speak in opposition of this request? Okay, seeing none.
Hi, y'all. I've never done this before, but this is right up the street from my house. Brandy Ward, I live at 7598 Racine Road. A couple of my concerns are, again, taxes, valuing. I bought a house on 17 acres that's 2,800 square foot and just added on for my foster children. So I don't want there to be a decrease. I don't want to regress. If we've already been here, I don't see why we have to go back to 15. Hopefully everyone will want to go 17 and bigger. Are we going to have garages? Is there going to be any other specifications with this? And one of my other concerns is Petty just sold a bunch of land a stone's throw away where they want to start building 211 houses. How is that going to affect all of our water system? I'm not smart enough to know how to figure that out, but I just want to make sure that that's kind of in the forefront of folks' minds. My other question is, they're only going to put one 1,700 square foot house on that 19-acre parcel, or is that going to be broke up too?
We haven't even tried to market that yet. No, that's not been broken up. We can't.
Ma'am,
Okay,
you need to address the board
okay,
with your questions.
okay. Is that 19 acres going to be broken up into several different lots?
If it were to be broken up, it would have to come back here again.
Okay,
It can't be broken up without reason.
okay,
All Ms. Burgess is asking for is from 1,700 to 1,500. Everything else will remain the same.
okay. The garage answer, is that,
I don't have the house plans in front of me, and we can't dictate that.
Is that in the restrictions? She's asked that question, and then what we can do is, once everybody has spoken, if Ms. Burgess wants to address that, I don't know if that's in the restrictions. Let's wait until there's other.
Okay, okay,
I'll be looking to see if I have those restrictions.
thank y'all.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions that you have, specific questions?
Nope, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak in opposition?
My name is Misty Henshaw. I live next door to Wayne Craver, 7454 Racine Road, and next door to the property being sold. This is, I think, my third trip here. I have no issues really with the 1,700 square feet homes. I do have issue with the 1,500. Our house is approximately 2,500 heated square feet, and I feel like it would decrease our property value. I do not feel we should be punished because COVID made the price of wood go up. I also have a concern about the last lot that's still the 19 acres. I feel like if we drop to 1,500 square feet on these homes on the 6 lots, that opens that door to put something in there like the original A Savant wanted to. I'm strongly opposed. My yard is the one that there have been 5 accidents in the 15 years I've lived there. So if that last lot is allowed to be subdivided, if we come back up here and that's allowed, then that increases the traffic. It increases the risk of my children pulling out of the driveway. And I feel like 1,500 square foot homes open a door for 1,200 square foot homes behind them. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else who'd like to speak in opposition? Okay, at this time, Ms. Burgess, could you come back up and maybe you can answer some of these folks' questions that they have addressed?
Okay.
Will these homes have carports, garages?
It's not restricted in the covenants that they have to have, but they will be. The one we have pre-sold, it will have a garage. Yes. So it could be both.
Attached garage?
Yes,
Garages
yes,
are in the deed
attached.
restrictions.
Excuse me?
I have a copy of the deed restrictions. Is this what you have? It does speak
Does
to
it say
garage.
with garages?
It does. It's, let's see, a private garage attached or detached built of materials comparable to those used in the dwelling for no less than one nor more than 3 automobiles.
Okay. So yes.
But what that means is if you're, those exterior, garages that are, from a company, those are prohibited, they have to be built from the same material. It doesn't mean that you have to build.
That you're restricted to.
Okay.
With a garage.
Metal shed.
Right, yeah, those metal sheds are prohibited. If you're gonna build a carport or a garage, it has to be built with the same building material as the house.
Right.
Okay.
Now, there was a question about the 19-acre property.
We have no plans to subdivide that tract. We're hoping to sell that as one tract, and build a home and sell it as one tract, yes. No, but we
Okay.
have no plans to subdivide it.
Can you clear up one thing for me? Did you said you had a 1,700-foot square house pre-sold?
Pre-sold.
On lot 3?
On lot 3,
On lot
yes,
3.
yes.
Not built, just pre-sold?
No, it's just a pre-sale. No, we haven't started on it yet.
Anyone else have any questions for Ms. Burgess? Thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll close this portion of the public hearing, and we'll have a discussion or a motion. I know home prices have gone up, the building materials have gone up, and some builders have even cut back on building spec houses because of the pricing.
They're ridiculous.
Well, we've already listened to this before, and it went through at 1,700 square feet. And I've heard the applicants say that they're building houses faster than they can build them. So evidently, moving the houses is not that big a problem. I have a hard time backing up on something we've already done. I know the economic situation has changed, but these people have been up here and they've testified to this before, and we've listened to their testimony. We made a decision for 1,700 square feet. That was the people around it. Now, the applicant is, because of the current economic situation, is requesting that we bring it back down to 1,500 square feet, which was an argument in the beginning that got us to 1,700. I have a hard time backing up. I understand the situation, but I have a hard time backing up.
I believe they'll sell, but it's the initial output and cost, and it's the cost of doing business, but, I see, to describe one of the arguments about the decrease in taxes, it's based on what the house sells for, and that's how the county determines it, because that's the value of it. So the county's it's going to be based on the sale price, whether that's a 1,500 foot or 1,700 foot or 1,900 square foot. If I'm not mistaken, that's how the county bases it.
It is.
But I agree with Kemp. I think we beat a dead horse, and then now we've resurrected the horse and we're going to ride it again. I have a hard time going, and if I hadn't been doing this that long, so I appreciate everybody else that has, because some of this stuff's running together, but now this one jumps out that it's been a while, and there was a lot of discussion. And I think the stumbling block was the size of the house, and this is kind of why we don't do this anymore. So we're allowed to do this, even though we don't do it anymore, because of this, right, Counselor?
It's my understanding that it
Once
was made
we're
a
removed.
condition, and they're changing the condition. That's more what's happening.
Yeah, so this is a difficult decision, I think, because developers still have the right to put restrictions on their developments. They can put restrictions as far as square footage. They can do that. What the new recent case law says is that you, boards should not use square footage as a determining factor. What they're saying is that, what you're just kind of alluding to in the taxes, the tax argument is that square footage alone is not the determining factor of value. You know, there's actually a multitude of factors that are more important than square footage, like building material. You know, obviously, like a 1,500 square foot brick home is probably, you know, higher value than a 2,000 square foot, you know, vinyl side of the house. So that's the only mandate that you have is really you're not supposed to look at that anymore. And I hear the arguments that you're saying, but it's, you know, you guys kind of, you have a tough decision before you.
I'd rather kind of just leave it alone. I mean, that's just my 2 cents. I don't, I understand, believe me, and I want you to be successful and stay in business and make all the profit you can. And I didn't think I'd ever see anything like this, where houses are flying off the shelf. I'm only one vote, but I'd have a tendency just to leave this one alone and let it stand the way it is and just get out of that. And that's probably why the court case came out like that. So you can't box somebody into a certain criteria in the fair housing. But that's just my 2 cents. I wouldn't be in favor of moving forward myself, and I may be overridden by everybody else's vote, but that's just my 2 cents.
John, you want to make a motion then?
Well, I can. I've do enough talking. I'm sorry. Let me get the proper. Yeah, get more reading. I make a motion to deny the rezoning request to rezone the specified parcels on the rezoning application to the requested zoning district based upon the determination and consistency of the finding of reasonableness and public interest statements that are included in the planning board's agenda submitted during the rezoning presentation, and as may be amended, incorporated into the motion to be included into the minutes, and that the request is not consistent with the Randolph County Growth Plan.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, your request has been denied. Thank y'all for coming tonight. This time we need a motion to adjourn.
I so moved.
And a
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Let me cut it off.
The law also